The previous basket is under review.
Welcome back, everybody, to a very special exclusive as part of our series here for Basket Under Review, our new head coaching series. And today I am privileged to be joined by University of Louisiana Monroe new head coach Ryan Cross. Ryan Cross comes from UAB most recently, but he's been in coaching for 31 years, coached high school ball, coached Chipola when he was young, has a bevy of experience. So Ryan, thank you so much for joining the program.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. So, one of the reasons it was a top priority for me and as part of this series is to bring you on is because I think what you're doing at UL Monroe is incredibly unique. Now, first of all, for those who don't know, Ryan was with Coach Richard, for many years before going to UAB with Andy Kennedy for the last 6 years, I believe.
And 6 years, yep.
Yep. And so the place. Obviously, it's been down a little bit these last couple of years. And, I just think the way you've attacked, and we'll get into the history of the school in a minute, but I just think the first thing I want to start out with, the way you've attacked both the roster and the schedule has stood out nationally in a big way. So I guess we'll start with the roster, bringing in, I think, as many as 7, if not more, JUCO players. Can you just maybe talk to us a little bit about how that came to be and what the initial strategy was from day one?
Well, obviously when I got the job, they were coming off a down year, and a lot of the kids wanted to leave, and that's expected. I mean, that's the new world that we live in. So we had to replace the entire roster. I go back to just my history in coaching and recruiting. I've always recruited junior colleges. We had some really good junior college players at UAB. It's just kind of something that I believe in. I love junior college players. It's where I got my start at the coaching in my coaching career. But there were kids that I'd seen a lot this year because we recruit junior colleges heavy at UAB that I was comfortable with. Kind of used my connections, and I just think in today's world, a lot of people sit around, they just wait for the portal. And I just felt like there was some quality out there in junior college, and we could sell, my history and what we've done for junior college players in my past stops. And I really like the junior college guys we got. I think we got some under the radar guys, and my message to them is, and I think a lot of coaches, maybe shy away from this was, look, I know what the landscape is and I know what everybody's looking for. Let me help you increase your value. Let me give you a platform where if you play well, you can move on and you can increase your value as a college athlete. So I thought we did a nice job in the junior college ranks. And then, my approach kind of in the portal was I brought 3 guys with me from UAB, but also added some guys that I felt like they were looking for an opportunity to kind of resurrect their careers. I think that's going to be really important for us. We did it last year at UAB. We had a young man, Chance Westry, who was a high-level recruit out of high school, had 3 years of injuries at Auburn and Syracuse, and really needed a fresh start to resurrect his career. We took him at UAB. He had a great year for us. He made all conference, was able to, springboard that into a great opportunity at Xavier. So I want to use those type of strategies to attract players. I think we got to think outside the box in today's world. It's not just who has the most money, but who can be the most creative, who can sell their vision, finding players that their visions align with mine, and when we do that, we can have success. And then ultimately, I tell my staff this every day: if we don't make these players better, if we don't really make player development and making these guys the best version of themselves, we have no chance. So that's what we work towards every day.
Yeah, obviously player development is a critical piece in college basketball in general, and obviously you get the opportunity to see these guys when they're a little younger. I know you're always been in the JUCO scene and have possibly a big advantage in terms of your evaluations, or certainly trust your evaluations, maybe more so than some of your rival schools or some of the schools in the area. So it's a fascinating approach because you're willing to go as far as you need to go, at least here in year one, to build the roster. And I think out of the guys, you have a couple of players from Odessa, obviously with Ziad and Jaquil. But is there a good familiarity with each of them, or did you guys have to do a lot of acclimating these last few months?
Well, Ziadi, we actually recruited him a little bit at UAB, and the coach at Odessa, Chris Ballman, was my assistant coach at Chipola back in the late 1990s, early 2000s. So Chris and I go way back. He's like family to me, and I have so much respect for what he's done as a junior college coach. I mean, his program is a program that I want to recruit every year. But I saw them play a lot this year, so I had a real good feel for what they were as players. And then just some of these other guys were guys that I had looked at UAB, and I feel like everybody we took out of the junior college ranks, I had a really good feel for them. I'd seen them multiple times. I had a connection to them. I know their coaches. I felt good about who they were as kids, what their commitment level was going to be like, what their past was, and I had a really good feel for what I thought they could bring to our program as we try to rebuild this program.
Yeah, that's terrific. And I think, of course, bringing DeJuan and Quran and Lance over from UAB, is that helping basically extend your message? Obviously, they put their trust in you to follow you to UL Monroe and enhance their opportunity to be in a bigger role. How has that played out in terms of them kind of co-piloting with you in a way?
Well, I'm glad you brought them up, because I thought those three guys were really critical in putting this roster together. Not just, because they know me, but, I have so much respect for AK and the job he does at UAB. I think he's one of the best coaches in the country. So we're going to do a lot of things that he does. We operate we have the same mindset. And so just to bring those three guys into our program, they know how we operate. They know how this thing is going to look. They know what winning looks like. I thought that was really important. And all three guys were looking for an opportunity to, kind of play a bigger role on a team. And I felt like we needed each other. They needed me to give them that opportunity, but I needed them to help me rebuild this thing. So I'm really excited for all three of them. DA was a kid. He was a first-team All-American 2 years ago in junior college, made the second most threes in the country, and really played well for us late in the year at UAB. And then, Q was a double-figure scorer at Northern Illinois 2 years ago, so he's done at this level. He went to Nebraska out of high school. He's been at Northern Illinois. And, he played a lesser role for us at UAB last year, but he had some really big games. In an overtime win at South Florida, he had 18 points, played a big role in our win over High Point. He had some really good moments for us last year at UAB, and he's an older guy. He'll be in his sixth year in college basketball. He's been in the Big Ten, he's been in the MAC, he's played in the American, so he kind of gives us some veteran leadership. And then Lance Carr, he was a pretty highly recruited guy out of high school. We obviously saw his talent at UAB. He didn't play very much for us, but, what was unique about him is he wanted a fresh start, an opportunity to get to play, but his mother and father both played here at ULM. His dad's actually in our Hall of Fame, was a great player here for Mike Vining, was an all-conference player in the Southland Conference back in the 90s. Really, really good player here. And then his mom was a good player as well. I think at one time she was the second all-time in career block shots. So, he's kind of got a unique opportunity here to come resurrect his career at a place where his mother and father both played.
That's phenomenal. Love that. And you're tying the history back in where, under Coach Vining, of course, he was there for a very long time. And I heard you talking about him in the press conference in '82, of course, getting that thing rolling and finally up in the banner. I'm a banners guy too, by the way. So when you said that, I was like, that's exactly what I do when I go to all these places. And of course, I'm kind of crazy. I get to see a lot of them throughout the year, but that tells you a lot about the history. Even in my home state, like Washington State, when Kyle Smith was there, I had finally gone to a game there, and it was like that was a great example. They had been to 7 NCAA tournaments in like almost 100 years of basketball, and it's just like it tells you how hard it is at some of these places to succeed. With that being said, UL Monroe, the history better than probably almost anybody. What's your plan to get to outside of like the schematics, which we'll get into a little bit, to just overall high level program wise, get UL Monroe out of where they were, one of the bottom teams in the country, coming out of the last couple of years, and back into the mix at the top of the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt, of course, at the top had a ton of parity, 6-way tie for second, almost a 7-way tie for first. A lot of different ways to win in this league. Obviously, we saw a run, I think, from Georgia Southern last year where they won like 5 days in a row in that crazy tournament format. So just big picture, what are your thoughts just attacking the league?
Well, first of all, I have a lot of respect for the Sun Belt. I think the Sun Belt is when I was here for 8 years as an assistant, it's a very balanced league. And I've always said this. I can remember being an assistant here. Even the teams at the bottom of the league, they were hard to beat. It's very, very balanced. It's a very athletic league. I think there's really good guard play in this league, good coaches in this league. Obviously we're starting from the bottom. I thought it was very important that we put together a roster. I thought we had to increase our athleticism, our physicality, our toughness. When I look at, their team last year, we have to make some strides in being a better defensive team, being a better rebounding team, play with more physicality, play with more force, all those things. So, I wanted to get bigger, more physical, more athletic. And then ultimately, you got to have guards to win at this level. I really think the guards we brought in will help in that area. But, more than anything, we have to do a good job we have to turn over every rock and find under the radar guys. I did it here as an assistant for 8 years. We had a good run. We finished second in the league twice when I was here as an assistant. We had a stretch where we were in postseason play 4 out of 5 years. So I understand what it looks like here. And as you mentioned, Mike Vining, he doesn't get the national recognition he probably deserves, but he is the all-time winningest coach in Southland Conference history. He had a stretch in the 90s where he went to 4 straight NCAA tournaments. They were the premier program in the Southland Conference at one time. And, since transitioning to the Sun Belt, there's been pockets of success. Orlando Early won his division in the Sun Belt one year. Coach Richard had a good run here. We had a stretch when I was here with him where we were consistently finishing in the top half of the league, and ultimately that's the goal. I said this in my press conference, and I mean it with all my heart. I want to put together a program that come March we're playing meaningful basketball. I think that's so important. And March goes back to February. You got to January and February you have to have a team that's competitive enough that when you start approaching March you're where you need to be in the conference standings. And, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take, turning over every rock, over every stone. I really like my staff. I think they're really committed to the process. They share the same vision that I do. But I think we just got to be able to work. We got to make these players better. We got to be demanding. We got to get these players to believe in our vision. And we really have to surround ourselves with like-minded people that have the same vision. We're all trying to become the best version of ourselves so we can increase value for ourselves and then also, put ourselves in position come March that we're up there in the race.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, one of the for early parts of this journey, Coach Cross, is the non-conference schedule, which I think is also incredibly unique. Not a lot of coaches out there. I know a couple, but it might be a very short list, willing to go and get these money games on back-to-back nights. I think you're doing it on 2 different occasions within about a 6-day window. And obviously, there's the financial part, which explains itself. But what about that from a basketball standpoint are you excited about and then also a little maybe worried about?
Well, obviously, we're playing a very challenging schedule, and it is what it is. And I don't fear that at all. I mean, now call me on December 1st, and I may have a different opinion. But, my thought was this: let's not beat around the bush. We're playing the games to generate revenue. So if we're going to be in Phoenix, why not play Grand Canyon and Arizona State on back-to-back nights? It saves us money, saves us a night of hotel rooms, night of food, all that. It helps us generate revenue. But also, if we're going to be in a position to win in the conference tournament, obviously we have to win the games on back-to-back nights. And, we're playing eight guarantee games this year. I'd have played all 8 in 8 days if they would have let me, if I could have worked it out. Because I just think that, I think, first of all, it puts our players in a position to play in some tough venues, play in some tough environments. I did try to sprinkle in, I mixed in a couple non-Division I opponents in there because I do understand team morale. I got to keep these guys, I got to keep these guys in the right frame of mind. But I'm excited about it. I think our players are right. And, I like to use it in recruiting. I think players all want to believe that they can play at the highest level where they're going to find out where they're at when it comes to that. But, it is what it is. We needed to have a way to generate some revenue, to put together a roster that ultimately could compete in the Sun Belt Conference. So, SJ and I talked about it when I got the job. He was very supportive of my thoughts. He understands why we're doing it. I think it helps our university. It helps us put together a roster that, in my opinion, will be ready to play come January and February.
Yeah, and I think when we look at the 5-month journey, obviously there's and great points on the back-to-back nights. I mean, that used to be common all the time in the professional ranks, and if more college teams were doing it, we could normalize it here too. But I think with the most important part of the year, of course, being how you're playing down the stretch in February, entering Pensacola. That has to be in mind, and you can use those opportunities, I imagine, to sort out who's earned the spots in the rotation. You might not have to make any final decisions till around the holidays, and you can use the non-conference for that too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the way our schedule kind of plays out, I kind of like the way it plays out. We got 2 home games to open the season. We open with Central Michigan, then we play a non-Division I opponent, and then we have 4 straight on the road: Texas A&M, TCU, Arizona State, Grand Canyon, all very challenging opponents. Then we come home and play another non-Division I team. Then we go back on the road, play LSU, and then we come back home and play Houston Christian. But, through that stretch, we'll figure out who we are, and we'll figure out, who plays well together, who can play when the games become meaningful, and so I'm excited about that early stretch. I'd like to win a few, but I'm excited about it. I think it'll teach us who we are. I think it'll challenge our guys to go play on the road. Obviously, winning on the road in college basketball is hard, but the teams that are playing meaningful basketball in March, they have the ability to go on the road and win tough games. So we'll be prepared for all that come January and February.
Yeah, and I know with your preference to play fast and attack and offensive rebound, get to the foul line. Maybe that has to be tempered a little bit with the travel at certain points. But obviously, those types of games, you're just hoping to stay in the fight as long as you can, and then work out your learning lessons as you go. So that'll be exciting to watch, and then certainly really exciting with the opener in the MAC Challenge home game against Central Michigan. That's a team that I got to know really well. Called a couple of their games in their first year as a staff, and they struggled. So they're gonna be making a lot of changes. So in my mind, that's gonna be like watching 2 brand new teams. One of the under the radar games in the Challenge, but I think it'll have a lot of excitement for those of us that know the 2 head coaches. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Philip Tillman. Philip Tillman, projects possibly as one of your leaders out of JUCO, somebody I think you're pretty high on. I wanted to open the floor for you to tell us about him.
I love Philip Tillman. A good friend of mine, Jesse Bopp, had signed him at Florida International. Their tenure ended there, and Philip, obviously got his release, and Jesse actually replaced me at UAB. So, there was a connection there. But Philip's from a couple hours up the road in Arkansas, and I love Philip Tillman. He is an everyday guy. He's very athletic. I think he's going to have a tremendous impact. He's just my type of guy. He's a blue-collar, tough kid, very coachable, really made huge strides this summer. I think he's going to be a real surprise guy, impact guy in the Sun Belt Conference.
I love it. One of the things that jumps off the page about him is in his numbers last year, he was averaging 7 boards a game at 6'1". I don't know if he could keep that up in the Sun Belt level, but that tells you a lot about his tenacity and how he would potentially fit your preferred style of play.
Yeah, this summer he's one of our leading rebounders. I mean, he really he pursues the ball. He's tough. He's a really, really good on-ball defender. Really athletic. I mean, he's one of those guys. I mean, he could be a defensive back in major college football. He's got great athleticism, strong. He put on about 15 pounds of muscle this summer. I got nothing but positive things to say about Philip Tillman. I'm really, really excited about coaching him and helping him get better. He's really, I mean, I've been really pleasantly surprised. More so than anything, his eagerness to learn, his eagerness to be coached, his toughness, his athleticism. I love Philip Tillman.
And in the front court, I'm really impressed with some of the bodies you've been able to get because I know it's a tricky thing to navigate. Obviously, the elite big guys go for a ton of money at the top, and then you try to find some diamonds. You got LaFleur coming over from TSU, didn't get a lot of run there in the OVC, but he's going to be a year older, maybe something to work with. We've talked about Ziade a little bit, also at 6'10". You have Martins at 6'9", Guillaume at 6'9", and Noel at 6'10". So to me, I look at a lot of these rosters. That's a lot of size for the level, and clearly part of the strategy. Anybody emerging from that group, or any overall thoughts on the game plan with the roster there?
Well, Noel is not going to be back. He's transferred to LSU Shreveport. But I'm really high on all those guys. They're all kind of unique. They all have a different skill set. Ziade is got some really good offensive tools. He can shoot the three. He's got great hands. Trying to get him to play with more force in the paint. We recruited him at UAB. I thought he was close to being that level of player. Got to get him to defensive rebound a little bit harder, but he's really a good offensive rebounder. It's funny. He's a good offensive rebounder. Doesn't always pursue the ball off the defensive glass like we need him to, but I really like him. I think he's got a really high upside. He's a guy that he hasn't played basketball for a long time, but he's going to be a good player at this level. Martins Adonri, very physical. He led East Texas Junior Colleges in rebounding. Very physical, tremendous kid, high character guy, very strong, got long arms. He could be he might be the most physical player on our team, can rebound the ball. I really like him. Gene LaFleur, he had a really good year 2 years ago at Southwest Tennessee, was the defensive player of the year in that junior college region. Penny Collins, who was the head coach at Tennessee at the time, had signed him. Penny and I are good friends. Penny left in the fall to go to the Memphis Grizzlies. And Gene didn't make the transition with the new coach. He only played in 2 games, so he was kind of a guy too looking to resurrect his career. He made huge strides this summer. He's big, 6'10". He came in here a little bit heavy. He lost about 25, 30 pounds this summer. Really transformed his body. Very coachable. Works hard. He's a physical presence in the paint. Giammi, very skilled. I saw him play. Last year, I went to see the big kid Matt Mobile that UAB ended up signing, and man, he had 29 points in that game. He's 6'9", very skilled. He's got to adjust a little bit to the physicality and the speed at this level, but he's got a tremendous upside. He's very skilled, got a very professional work approach, just work ethic through the roof, works every day, coachable, wants to be good. His physical tools, he's got to get stronger. He's got to adjust to the quickness at this level. But I'm really excited about him and his future. Another guy in our front court that I'm really high on is from Parkland Junior College. Parkland played for a national championship 2 years ago, and then won the national championship this year. Grant Chamberlain. Been really pleasantly surprised with him this summer. He can really shoot the ball, and he's a great passer. I tell him all the time, he's kind of a poor man's Tyler Nickel that played at Vanderbilt last year. He's kind of a guy that you could play him at the 3, play him at the 4, but really good shooter, really moves the ball, very good passer, has a good feel for the game. You know, he played for a coach in junior college, John Bowler, who left Parkland and went to Eastern Michigan. Very good coach. I'm really high on Grant. I think he's going to be a good player for us. He's a really good piece to the puzzle for us.
That's fantastic. I love the updates on that, and obviously it'll be a work in progress as we go, and I'm sure October will teach you a lot as you guys go through some everyday practices and the exhibition season and get ready for the Chippewas on November 2nd, opening night. Your athletic director and new boss is S.J. Tui, of course, and I thought it was really interesting when he talked about the PowerPoint presentation you had for him and the video graphics and the 15 texts a day and all that stuff. And is that similar with how you recruit these JUCO guys and some of the portal players? Do you have to go that far sometimes?
I think we just try to give them as much information we can and just wear them down till they cave in. No, SJ's
there we go.
I think SJ, he's young, he's energetic. I think he thinks outside the box. He's got a real vision for, because we have to be creative and he talks a lot about. I heard him say this in his opening remarks when he was named athletic director. We got to be a program that wins the margins, and we need to do the same thing as a basketball program. I mean, we need to win those margins that determine winning and losing. But SJ's been great. I think. He's starting to build his staff. He's only been on the job for about 8 months now, but he's starting to get his staff put together. He's got some really, really bright, sharp, young people in here that, I think outside the box, share his vision, and I'm really excited for the future here. He's done some really good things. He's got some naming rights for facilities. Just being creative and figuring out a way to generate revenue.
Will you guys have a patch on your uniform this year?
Yes, we will. It was just announced about a week ago. They're renaming our facility to B1 Bank Fant Coliseum, and B1 Bank is a local bank, and so we'll be wearing the B1 Bank logo on our uniforms. But certainly excited and appreciative of their support for not just our men's basketball program and our athletic department, our university as a whole.
That's exciting. Got to get the money, keep it flowing, and obviously the Sun Belt has it kind of all trickles down to us from football in some ways. With we know James Madison football, some of that money has to impact their ability to be well financed in basketball. There's a couple other examples. I know Arkansas State, of course, in recent years has really stepped up. So obviously that's a part of the competition, but you're ability to, this is just from my lens, to build a roster that's outside the box, to work with an athletic director that's outside of the box, to have the support of the president. It's really refreshing because of what we've seen these last few years there in Monroe. So this is the time, America, to get on the Warhawk bandwagon. In my opinion, get in early because there might not be room for you later.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter the other day, Rothstein put out some. I think it was Rothstein. Or Goodman, one of those guys, they put out what they thought were, the key matchups in college basketball on November 2nd. And I had to correct them.
I saw that.
Central Michigan ULM's number 1 on my docket. So, no, we're excited, man. We're like I said, I've been in this profession for 31 years, and, this is ultimately what you're working for, is to have the opportunity to lead your own program. So I'm excited. I like our staff. I like our players. I have sweat equity built into this program, having been here as an assistant. So excited to get to work and excited to make some headway here.
He's head coach Ryan Cross of UL Monroe. I'm Rocco Miller. Thanks for joining us today. Let's do it again soon, Coach. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Appreciate your time.